My friends in Jesus and Mary, I have exciting news about the progress concerning the fifth Marian Dogma, concerning Our Lady's solemn definition as the spiritual mother of all peoples, co-redemptrix, mediatrix of all graces, and advocate. As we are in 2010, we were ushered into this year through some amazing acts by some very courageous cardinals and bishops throughout the world. Cardinals and bishops from 5 different continents all wrote as groups of cardinals and bishops from these respective continents. So I'm speaking about Latin America, I'm talking about Europe, elements of Eastern Europe, certainly Asia and Africa, where cardinals and bishops came up with group letters, if you will, a letter representing their continent, letters to the Holy Father asking him to take the next positive step for the solemn definition of the fifth Marian Dogma. Now, why do we talk so much about the fifth Marian Dogma? And why is this so significant? And why in 2010 is it so important that we daily are praying and that we've made sure that we have sent our petition to the Holy Father for this fifth Marian Dogma? Because, my friends, the fifth Marian Dogma, the solemn definition of Our Lady, is what frees her to fully exercise her intercessory power on behalf of the Church and the world. I mean, think of a mother with children on the freeway and how afraid she is because her children on the freeway, she sees them almost getting hit, and let's say she sees some of them getting hit, and yet she's being prevented from getting them off the freeway. She can call, she can encourage, but it's loud, and the sounds are of racing cars are back and forth, and every once in a while they hear the mother's voice, but oftentimes they miss the mother's voice, but they're in such grave danger. Well, this is not an exaggerated analogy to where the world is today. The world is playing on a freeway. We are in grave danger. We're in incredible, unprecedented moral crisis. Natural disaster is more numerous than at any other time in history that we've recorded, and that's international emergency agencies confirming that. And also war. We're in war, but there's the real possibility, the real proximity of nuclear war. Do you know, my friends, that if one nuclear bomb was let off, that you would have, in general estimates, you would have immediately 70 million people who would die from the bomb, and then as much as another 100 million people who would die from the effects of the bomb in the atmosphere. These are presently in the hands of people in unstable governments, in communist and atheist leaders who have little respect for human life, as evidenced by their abortion and euthanasia policies, but do have a real concern about world power. Should this concern us? Yes, it should concern us. We are playing on the freeway. Our Lady not only wants to have her voice occasionally heard, she wants to be able to come upon the freeway and pull us off. And still, we could break free and stay on the freeway, but she wants to have the full exercise to save her children. That comes when we recognize who she is. You know, John Paul II used to always say, become what you are. And that is, become the fullness of what you're supposed to be. Well, with Our Lady, the power that she could execute on the world, the spiritual power as a co-redemptrix and a mediatrix of all grace and advocate, is untold. It's phenomenal. Is she exercising power right now? Well, sure she is, but not nearly as much as she could. Not the historic, unprecedented degree of the power that would be exercised if we solemnly acknowledge her role. And that's the whole mystery of free will. God is not going to force Our Lady on us. He's not going to force His grace on us. We have to acknowledge her. That's what the definition is. That's what the dogma is. And Our Lady has confirmed all these things in her approved apparitions in Amsterdam, where she comes as the Lady of all nations, and she says, without the dogma, we will not have full peace. And she says it positively, that with the proclamation of the dogma, and she says in Amsterdam that the dogma will be. The outcome is already assured. But she also says, with the proclamation of the dogma, then and only then can true peace enter the world. So, why do we keep talking so much about the fifth Marian Dogma? Because it is the remedy. It's God's desire to bring peace peace and redemption and grace to the world through Our Lady. He's not going to change His plan because we are reticent to accept His plan. We can continue to try to make our own plans. We can try to get people off the freeway ourselves. It's not going to be effective until we ask in humility for Our Lady to enter the picture in a powerful way. Now, why does the Pope have to make a proclamation like that? Because he's the bearer of the keys. He's Jesus Christ representing Him on earth. He's the vicar of Christ, and He has the power to loose and bind. He has the power to formally recognize that Our Lady is truly the spiritual mother in representation of all humanity. And that's the critical authority and position of our Holy Father. So, I'm asking you, in light of the situation of today, we all are suffering. No one is free from financial or family or moral strife in their neighborhood and oftentimes within their own home, and certainly within society and absolutely within the world. So I continue to come back and talk about the dogma because it's heaven's remedy. And the sooner we acknowledge and accept heaven's remedy, the sooner we will have the triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. We will have an era of peace. And we'll have the grace to go through any purification that God desires us to go through, precisely so that we can have a fundamental civilization of love. Not a culture of death, but a culture of life and love. That's not impossible. And it's not only in heaven. We can have a true life of fundamental sanctifying grace here, but it's going to take a lot of grace, and unfortunately it's going to take some tragedy. But our task is to be obedient and receptive of the grace that's coming. So, I ask you, pray the prayer of the Lady of all Nations. You can get it by going to motherofallpeoples.com. It's on the front page. Send in a petition to the Holy Father. You can either write your own petition from your heart, or you can go to fifthmariandogma.com or motherofallpeoples.com, and you can send in an electronic petition to the Holy Father. Most of all, remember the Pope and the dogma in your Mass intentions each day, for those able to have the miracle of the day each day. Your rosary intentions, and in a real way, your suffering, your sacrifices. Offer these sufferings for the co-redemptrix, for Our Lady. Not that she needs them for herself, but she needs to be freed. She needs to be released. She needs to be acknowledged as the spiritual mother of all peoples, the co-redemptrix, mediatrix of all graces, and advocate, so she can do it for us. So she can become what she is in the fullest capacity with our blessing, with our consent. As one author said, isn't it ironic that the angel Gabriel had to make a request, and all of heaven and all of earth waited for Mary to say yes to the request so we could get our Redeemer? Well, now Our Lady's waiting. Our Lady's waiting for our consent. And the way our consent is manifested is through the Vicar of Jesus on earth, through a solemn proclamation. So pray for our beloved Holy Father. Pray for the proclamation of the Fifth Marian Dogma. Pray the prayer of the Lady of all Nations. Offer your sacrifices for this. Do your part so that when Our Lady is crowned with this mystical crown with so many gems of saying, yes, we do acknowledge you as Mother, you can look up and say, one of those tiny little gems is my prayer, my sacrifices, my Eucharistic offerings, my holy hours, my rosaries. That's one of those gems. Yeah, and there's maybe millions of gems on that mystical crown that Our Lady will receive when she is proclaimed as the spiritual mother of all peoples. Just make sure that your gift to Our Lady, your gem, is there too. This is Mark Miravalle saying thank you and God bless.